Hi, my name is Nora Say, and welcome to my presentation, Landing Any Job with Recreation Experience. No matter what field you hope to go in, your rec experience should be one of the most talked about experiences on your resume. And the reason is because the soft skills that you gain working in recreation are the exact skills that employers are looking for. So in this presentation, I'm going to help you to connect the dots from the experience you currently have to help you to be able to explain how that experience can help you in any field that you decide to go into. So before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I live in California. I'm from the East Coast. I was born and raised there. I just recently moved to California. I work with kids. I'm a summer camp director. I'm also a PE teacher. I love what I do. But I didn't start off here. When I finished high school, I went to college in a private school in Virginia, and I was trying to figure out what to major in. And my mom told me, you should major in computer science. And I said, why, Mom? She said, because you're really good at fixing my phone. And I said, okay. I was like, if I major in computer science, can I play sports in college? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. She's like, because you're going to go and work for Google and anyways, so you're good. I said, great. So I was lucky. I was fortunate. I got to play 4 great years of soccer in college and also basketball, and I had a blast. I finished and I earned my computer science degree. And on my graduation day, I remember my mom was there, my family was there, and I had made a huge decision. And the decision I made is I went and I told my mom, hey, Mom, thank you so much for helping me through school, helping me to stay focused, helping me financially to get through so I can earn my computer science degree. I've decided that I never want to go into technology. Yeah. If you could imagine, she was not too keen about what I had just said. She was pretty disappointed. But I realized that I just didn't want to talk to a computer all day, which is funny because here I am talking to a computer, right? But in terms, what I really meant is I didn't want to code. And in that manner, you spend a lot of time looking at a screen. I was a people person. All when I was in college and my latter years of high school, I worked summer camps. And I loved it. I worked soccer camps, I worked basketball camps, I worked recreation camps, and I had a blast. And that was where my passion really was. So I took a year after I graduated to work as a missions counselor at my school. And I liked it a lot. But I realized that wasn't where my passion was at. It was kind of like a sales job. Loved it, great people. I still wasn't it. So I felt this calling to go back to school. So I ended up going to James Madison University, go Dukes, where I studied kinesiology and earned my master's in kinesiology with a focus in sport and recreation. And I loved it. It was a great major for me because it allowed me to harness in all of my skills, working with teams and being all my leadership skills into one major. And I finished in my 2 years. And during that time, I also had an internship where I worked summer camp at Princeton University. And it was a really, really awesome experience. And I got to work with really great people. Then when I graduated from JMU, I went to Rutgers University and I worked there for about 2 years. I worked with their sport clubs and then also with their summer camps. And then after about 2 years, I went to Princeton for a little under 2 years, where I did something similar, where I worked with their sport clubs and their summer camps. And I realized during COVID, looking back at everything, that my true passion lies with kids. And that's what I really enjoy doing. So I decided that I was going to look for a job that I could work with youth, like K through 8th grade, all year round. And it was a really rewarding experience because I finally found what I was passionate about. The only issue is I didn't have too much experience working with kids in an academic setting. I worked with college kids a lot. I have worked summer camps, but I didn't get the opportunity to work for a private company. I'm working higher ed. I had done some admin work, but I definitely could have done more. I didn't have that much financial experience in terms of budgeting and such. So there's definitely some gaps in my resume. But I ended up interviewing for a job in California, which is where I'm at now. It's called La Garza, and I'm a summer camp director. Actually, my title is a regional coordinator, so I oversee summer camps in the Silicon Valley. And then during the school year, I'm a PE teacher, and I love it, right? My experience I have on my resume is vast. But the skills that I've learned in every area, from computer science to admissions to summer camp to sport clubs, I was able to use all of them to be able to land this job. And so now I'm going to share with you what I learned in all of my interview processes on how to be able to talk about the transferable skills that you have from your job, specifically recreation, to help you land your next job. So applying for a job, it's always quite a fun experience, right? You might put in a lot of applications, you may not hear back from as many people, and that's normal. That's part of the application process, the job search process. It takes perseverance. So there's three things that I really see is a big part of the job process. The first one is a resume. Second is cover letter, and third is an interview. So just a quick recap of how I see all three of them. Let's start about talking about the purpose of all three of them: the resume, cover letter, and interview. All right, in a nutshell, a resume is what the purpose of a resume is for the employer to learn about your experiences. So if you're a note taker, take note on this, right? The resume is so that the way the employer can learn about your experience. So let's talk about some quick resume etiquette, all right? Ideally, resume, 1 page. Kind of depends on the experience. Sometimes 2 pages, it works. My resume is 2 pages right now. That's because I have a lot of summer camp experience. Maybe for the job that you're applying for, you have a lot of experience in it. If you can condense it into 1 page, great, because employers, they typically look through resumes very quickly. And they're looking for things to stand out to them. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. Another thing in terms of the formatting of your resume, you don't need to put your address at the top. They're not going to send you anything in the mail from a job application. What it can do actually is turn off your employer from your job application. Because let's say if you're in Virginia and you're applying for a job in California and you put Virginia address on your resume, some employers, they might not be able to pay for relocation, and they might say, we can't even afford to like relocate her over here. Or it might be, what are the chances someone is really going to move across the country for our job? But let's spend their time in somebody else who's local. Right? So you don't need that address on your resume. I think that you should clearly have your education on your resume, and then any relevant experiences in order from your latest experience to the experience you had, back in the day. So you don't need to put when you were 6 years old that you were in Girl Scouts, right? But if we're, let's say, a sophomore in college, yeah, you might put some of your high school experience because it's within the past 3 years, and that's pretty relevant. You want to make sure on your resume, don't put paragraphs. I have reviewed a ton of applications, a ton of resumes for jobs. And I can tell you, when I see resumes that have paragraphs on it, I'm just not reading it. I don't have the time to read it because I'm usually going through a lot of them. So you want to put quick bullet points, ideally one-liners, no more than two-liners. And you want to make sure that every bullet point starts with an action verb, right? Something that you are doing. So maybe you introduced a new idea to the group. Maybe you led staff meetings. Maybe you facilitated, games, whatever it may be. But you want to start everything with an action verb. Next, use numbers whenever applicable. So let's say if it's a job that you're applying for and it's a job that has to do with event management. And working in recreation, you all had a ton of events. You had your 5K, you had your fitness event, you helped out with your aquatics event. Take that number. Maybe in your 3 years, you helped out with, let's say, 14 different events in the rec center. Add that in there. So instead of just saying, I help to lead events in the rec center, you can say, I help to lead 14 unique events in the rec center, right? That makes a big difference to employers, and that it tells us that number, and it kind of gives us a little bit more detail about the experience that you have. And lastly, remember to put in your experiences that you've already done in past tense. So all of your experiences should have a start date and an end date. And if it's one that a job that you've had and you finished, those experiences should be in past tense versus the experience that you currently are doing should be in your present tense. All right. So remember, the purpose of your resume is for the employer to learn about your experiences. All right. Next, your cover letter. Your cover letter should allow the employer to learn about your passion. So I see this so often when I review cover letters. It's just a regurgitated resume written in paragraph form on your cover letter. That's not what we're looking for, right? What we're looking for is why you want to work for the company. So maybe, again, if we're using the example of an event management company that you'd like to work for, let's say it's wedding planning, right? Instead of saying, hey, at the rec center, I helped to plan 14 events, and they were different events with, like 400, 500 people, right? We've already seen that on your resume. So why are you telling us again on your cover letter? Instead, you want to talk about, maybe pick one or two experiences that you can elaborate on, and then you want to talk about why you enjoyed it, and then you want to relate it to the company. And if you can bring in the mission of the company you're applying for, that makes it even better. So an example might be, I helped to lead an event for Valentine's Day in our rec center where we helped to sell roses. And then let's see, we helped to sell roses, and we helped about 400 students. They were able to, let's say, play basketball. If they won basketball, they won roses that they were able to then give away for Valentine's Day, right? And then you talk about why you enjoyed that. So I really enjoyed that because I was helping other students in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been able to do themselves. So maybe they have people they cared about and they really wanted to make their day special. And through this event, you were able to help other people make their day special. Then you want to pull in the company. So let's just say this company, we'll call them Cupid's Wedding Company, right? So you can say, hey, I've read that your company, Cupid's Wedding Company, the mission is for every wedding, make it an unforgettable life experience for that couple. And that's something that aligns with my personal values when I put on events, is that I want it to be impactful. All right. So that's why I think that I would be a great fit at your company. So in that way, you can see, yes, you talked about an experience that you've had that's on your resume, but maybe it's not something that you specifically had on your resume, like the Rose event. But you can go into more detail and they can learn a little bit about you and your passions and what you like and why you decided to apply for that job at that company. So those are some things that they're going to be looking for in a cover letter. So remember, the purpose of a resume is to learn about your experiences. Purpose of a cover letter is to learn about your passion. All right. So next is the interview. And the purpose of the interview is, they've seen your resume, so they know your experience. They've read your cover letter, so they know your passion. Now they say, okay, this person has the experience, check. They have the passion, check. Let's bring them in and interview them because we want to know if they're going to make a good fit for the company. So for this part, you want to be able to take the soft skills that you gain from recreation and be able to relate them to the job at hand. So when I talk about soft skills, what am I talking about? Soft skills, these are the non-technical skills that relate to how you work. Maybe how you interact with colleagues, problem solve, manage your work. These are often known as transferable skills. These are abilities that you can transfer from one job to another. So working with Fusion is probably not going to be a soft skill that a wedding company will use, will find very beneficial to them. But what they might really appreciate is if working with Fusion, you probably have to be pretty good at problem solving and troubleshooting when issues arise, especially if you work at the front desk and you got to check people in and Fusion shuts down, and what do you do? Those situations also happen in weddings, right? Where something doesn't go as planned. And so if you're able to take that experience working with Fusion and not specifically saying, hey, I worked, if they ask you, can you talk about an experience that something hasn't gone as planned? You can then take that experience working with Fusion and talk about how if Fusion isn't working, what you do, and then relate it to, problem solving and in the wedding industry, because they're going to be able to relate. And they'll probably, if you talk, let's say an answer might be, hey, a time when something hasn't gone as planned. For a big event that we had in the rec center, we check in all of our students through an application that we call Fusion. And Fusion, right as I was checking in the third person, crashed, shut down. And I had hundreds of other kids that I had to check in. So I had to problem solve. And what I ended up doing, instead of writing down everybody's ID, I pulled out my phone. I just took pictures of every person's ID card. So that way I could keep the line moving. And then later on, I could have some of my team help to input all of the names manually. And that right there, and that answer right there is a great answer, because they are going to be able in the wedding industry to relate and say, yeah, sometimes we have, let's say the cupcakes that were supposed to arrive at X time, and then they don't arrive. And we had to problem solve. We had to think of something else. So you see how you can take any experience in recreation and you can relate it to the job that you're applying for. You just have to look for the soft skills in your rec experience. All right. So it is your job when you're in the interview to connect the dots. The employer in this wedding field may not be able to understand how your experience working in rec can help you be a great wedding planner. That's your job, to help them to connect the dots, right? Verbally communicate the transferable skills gained from that rec experience to the job that you're applying for. And you can do this. This is something that you can do for any industry that you're going into: fast food, retail, medical, tech, whatever it may be, right? You can use those soft skills and be able to help you to answer any questions. And so here are, I encourage you when you're, preparing for interviews, look at some common interview questions, and then think about how you can answer them using your rec experience, but providing an answer that can be applicable to any industry at all. Because that is what's going to help you to land any job within recreation, right? So just to go over it one more time, right? The purpose of a resume is for the employer to learn about your experiences. The purpose of a cover letter is for the employer to learn about your passion. The purpose of an interview is for the employer to learn if you will make a good fit to the company team. And remember, you have so many soft skills that you've gained from working in recreation. You just need to sit down and figure out what are those soft skills. Whether it's your manager and you have to work with communicating with staff, and maybe you've had to have difficult conversations when to hold your staff accountable, right? And you do this because you want to make sure that you're providing the best service. And so being able to see those soft skills, understand the soft skills that you gain, and then being able to connect the dots for the employer during the interview. Remember, that is your job. It is not their job to be able to see how working in recreation can relate to the field that you're applying for. Once you have a better understanding of the soft skills that you've gained in rec, then it's going to help you to be able to connect the dots even better for any job that you're applying for. I highly recommend, if you need assistance and figure out what are these soft skills I'm gaining, talk to anybody in the rec field, whether it's maybe it's recreation, campus recreation, maybe it's you work for your coach or your ref, anything. If there's someone that's been at the job for a little bit longer than you have, maybe 3, 4, 5+ years, ask them, hey, what are some transferable skills that this job provides? And I'm sure people will be more than happy to be able to share, like, hey, you don't even realize when you're refereeing this game, this teaches you how to have confidence in yourself, right? Whenever you make a call, you got to make that call, very confidently so that other people believe it. And so that's a soft skill that you can take into any other field as well, being able to have confidence in yourself. And we can go on for this for days and days and days. I've told you all the secret on how to land any job with your recreation experience. So now it's your turn to review your resume, review your cover letter, and understand the soft skills that you gained from all your experiences so that when the interview, you can just crush it. I have faith in you. If you have any questions at all, find me on LinkedIn, reach out to me. My first name is Nora, Nora. Last name is Osei, Osei. And I'll be more than happy to help you out. Thank you so much for watching this presentation. Thank you, Seneca, for this amazing conference. I love what you're doing. And if you're at this conference right now watching this video, that shows that you are trying to better yourself. And I love it. I'm always willing to help people who wants to be helped. So again, reach out to me. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the presentations.